Hi, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today our question comes from Kovu23. He says, "Hey Ramsey, can you make a video about overtraining and the optimal amount of training for an MMA fighter or a combat sports athlete? And is it better for martial artists to do for conditioning, weightlifting, calisthenics, or strongman training, or a mix of all?" The optimal amount of training, I'm going to get straight to it. Keep it short and keep it sweet. Being a professional fighter does not mean training all day long. It means training in fairly short intervals consistently. So in my opinion, the best training regimen for a professional fighter, assuming that you already know how to fight, assuming that you already know the basics of striking and grappling and putting them together. One session that focuses on technique and sparring, and one session that focuses on strength and conditioning. And as far as strength and conditioning goes, make sure that the movements you use are applicable to fight training. So, calisthenics, powerlifting, strongman, there's some good stuff from all of those disciplines that can transfer over to fight training. I would say the most important things you need to focus on in strength and conditioning, as far as lifts goes, squats, deadlifts, and pull-ups. So, whoa, look at that. We're combining calisthenics and powerlifting. Squats, deadlifts, why those are the big postural lifts. Those ones transfer directly to fighting. And yeah, there is an upper echelon, threshold, whatever. I'm blanking on the word I need to use right now. There is an upper limit, that's what I want. An upper limit of how much that squat or that deadlift is going to affect your performance. If you can deadlift 1,000 pounds versus deadlifting 700 pounds, well, you should probably become a professional strongman competitor. And maybe not worry so much about cage fighting. But improving your posture, that is huge. And when I say posture, the first thing everybody does is pull their shoulders back, stick their chin up in the air. That's not what I'm talking about. Being able to align your head, neck, spine, and tailbone under pressure. That's what I'm talking about. Take a look at this clip right here. I'm sparring with my friend Nick, doing some MMA sparring. And I shoot for a takedown, and he ends up attempting a guillotine choke. He's got his arm around my neck. And so what do? I straighten out my head, neck, spine, and tailbone, and I fix my posture. So even though I'm down at this angle, my posture is unbroken, and as a result, I become unchokeable. And so I can squish Nick to the floor, pin his shoulders, and make sure that his guillotine attempt is worthless. And so I can sit there and smile, and I'm fine. And there's no blood restriction going on there because of good posture. Now, if I didn't squat and deadlift, there's no way I would be able to do that. He would have folded me right in half if I didn't have that type of postural strength. Strength combined with technique, invaluable. Technique is not a lack of strength. It is an intelligent application of strength and power. Remember that. Always remember that. Pull-ups. Why is that so important? And why did I just recommend 3 exercises? I mean, there are a bunch of great exercises out there, but if you're going to limit the movements you're going to do, and you have to, because with a 90-minute to 2-hour training session, you have to get straight to the point. You have to get it done quick. Pulling strength is one of the most important types of strength for fighting, for grappling and for striking. What's a punch? People think it's a push, pushing that fist forward. No, it's pulling the other side of your body back in order to drive that arm forward, to create that twist, to generate that power. How about grappling? You ever tried to do a snap down if you're familiar with wrestling, do a snap down on somebody bigger and stronger than you, and you realized, wait a minute, I don't have enough pulling strength, even with proper leverage and technique and a good setup to make this happen. I showed a technique a while back. I don't remember which one. I've been doing a few technique videos lately. And somebody said something like, I don't think that would work on someone who is stronger than you. And I'm going to be really honest about jiu-jitsu technique. Jiu-jitsu specifically. There is a point where your technique will buckle and give way to strength with a lot of techniques. Not all, but a lot. The rear naked choke is one of those that'll kill anybody. If you get the correct position and put that squeeze on, you'll kill anybody. But that's it. It was an armbar. It was a straight armbar from the guard that I showed off of an overhook, off of a whizzer. And it's a good technique. Sometimes you'll catch people with it, sometimes you won't. And this guy said, I don't think I could catch anybody stronger than me with this. And I would say yes and no. The yes being techniques like that work really well when there's about a 30% strength difference. Either way. If the guy's about 30% stronger than you, you can still catch him with that. If he's weaker than you, definitely. But if he's like twice your strength, or 3 times or 4 times your strength, yeah, forget about it. He's probably going to rip that arm out, slime you, and beat the crap out of you. So, Strongman. Strongman is interesting because of all the odd object lifting. And I like the idea of odd object lifting. Just picking up something cumbersome, oddly angled, and walking around with it. Because it triggers a bunch of muscles that you don't always use in your everyday life. And that's interesting. It increases your sense of proprioception. But again, not all strongman exercises or events or whatever you want to call them are going to translate into mixed martial arts competition. So keep it simple. Squats, deadlifts, pull-ups, maybe pick a couple others. Push-ups, man, that's good. Calisthenics are great. I've got a friend, he's been on my podcast. I've done some sparring with him, done a couple of videos with him. Jawad Mahmoudi, and he's a really strong guy. He's a super athletic guy. And he never touches a weight, but he's huge on calisthenics. And he teaches this whole class at his gym on calisthenics, just body weight training. And yeah, I mean, the guy is ripped and he's stacked and he's strong and fantastic athlete. And that's all from calisthenics. So, yeah, another thing about calisthenics, which not everybody realizes, is that you have to really work at it. There's this great video series I saw. Man, I'm forgetting the name of the dude who put it out, but he's a big guy. And he's got big muscles. He's got giant quads and big old biceps and stuff. And he doesn't touch weights. He's all about body weight exercises. And he basically says, yes, you can get big doing body weight exercises, but you have to do a lot more of them. Like a lot. So his workout routine, his calisthenics routine is crazy. Man, it's crazy. So in a lot of ways, it's way easier just to pick up that big heavy weight because it essentially tricks your muscles into responding more immediately than, say, doing 1,000 push-ups or whatever it takes to make those muscles finally grow. Let me take a look at that question for a minute. Make sure I didn't miss anything. So, strongman, powerlifting. And the thing with powerlifting, the ultimate goal with that is to lift as much weight as possible. And that's a good goal, to have a high PR, be able to lift heavy things as heavy as you can. That's awesome. But how much does that translate into fighting? Some, I'm not going to say not at all, but some But there are other things you can do. Muscle endurance is just as important, if not way more important, than, that one max lift. Because you have to remember, a fight goes on and on. MMA fights for up to 25 minutes. Boxing matches for over half an hour. At the professional level anyway, if we're talking about a championship fight, regular fight like 15 minutes long in MMA. So being able to lift something really heavy once, yeah, that's not as important as being able to stay alive and stay in the cage and keep breathing under pressure of somebody trying to squash you to death for 15 to 25 minutes. So, yeah, being able to do a whole bunch of pull-ups is probably more important than being able to squat a really, really heavy weight once. However, if you can squat that really heavy weight once, you can squat lower weights. You can squat half that a whole bunch of times. So I guess what I'm trying to say right here is that there is no one perfect program. There's probably a perfect program for you specifically. But there are so many variables in the sport of MMA. And there are so many guys training in so many different ways. Some of them are just crazy nuts, the way some of these guys train. And I wouldn't recommend it at all. But keep it simple. Keep it consistent. That is more important than how much you're lifting or which lifts you're doing. Keep it consistent. My personal recommendation, 6 days on, 1 day off. 6 days of the week, you're in the gym, 90 minutes to 2 hours, constantly working strength and conditioning. 90 minutes to 2 hours, constantly working technique and sparring. 6 days on, 1 day off, rest and recover, get back to it. What do you do the rest of the day? You live your life, that's what you do. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and train.